Just a little shot here of me progressing on this rack or shelving system. What I've done is made a couple of spacers to go in between just to hold it. Now originally what I had done is I had put these two blocks on both sides of it, but the problem with that being is once I got them lagged into the rack end piece, you couldn't get it out. So what I did is ended up taking one of the side supports or side holders out on each side so that I could just slide it out that way once it's done. But I just kind of hold them up because once you get up to the top, it becomes kind of difficult. So you need something to kind of hold it in place. Now, what I had done before is when I had built those other racks, I had just put a C-clamp on the end and rested it on a C-clamp. But this is a lot better because you would have to go and figure out where to position the C-clamp each time that you did it. So the spacer makes it a lot easier because it holds it and spaces it at the same time. So that's just kind of what I've done. I'm continuing on this. I'll probably maybe put another tier up and then maybe start cutting some of the 2x4 spreaders in between, joists if you want to call them that. Okay, so probably about 3 hours on a Saturday, I came over here and got this much more done on the thing. Now, my grandson actually came over and was helping me. So it wasn't like a single effort of getting all of this done, but it's coming, and we'll get it. We're probably gonna move it over before we sheet it. He's concerned about the weight. I'm not concerned about it moving it, but anyways, we may or may not sheet it before we move it, but we'll get that done. I'm out here, I got that new tire on yesterday. I wanted to, I picked it up later in the afternoon and wanted to get it on because I didn't want to leave the jack or anything out here overnight. As you may be able to see, there's a fairgrounds very near me, and probably only within a mile as a crow flies, but they use this track. Actually, they've just got this parked back here for today because they're going to be loading up, the fair is over, they'll be loading up the all of the rides and stuff onto this train to get it out of here. But with that fair and this train comes a whole bunch of carny workers, and it's not good to leave stuff out around that can be taken. But anyways, what I'm doing on this side of I'm just pulling the tires off and rotating them front to back. But I'll bring you back. Yeah, there it is, like 5-10 minutes later, got it rotated. Just putting the tools away, so that's taken care of. I'm just going to park the trailer back in its normal spot. Okay, so here is the rack or shelf unit. What I've got is all the stringers on. In other words, the 12-foot boards that go horizontally across. I've got them all on. There's 3 tiers of joists done, so there's 4 more that have got to be done. But that's where I am right at this spot. Now, the upper 2 tiers are narrower so that I can get smaller stuff in there. Now, I say that so I can get smaller stuff in there. Actually, I probably screwed up in figuring out how far apart. What I did is I measured the distance that was apart without ever measuring the end frame. And just so I didn't know the correlation of the end frame height to the correlation of this end frame height, and I just set it at that height apart. So when I got up towards the top, I noticed that the spacing didn't look right. So what I did is measured it and just changed it. So and that was kind of a fupa on my part. But it sounds good if I say that I space them narrower apart so I can get smaller stuff in there. Lighter, smaller stuff in there. But anyways, I've got to do the joist, and then probably I'm going to throw a couple of tiers of sheeting on it before I move it over there. But I'll bring you back. Okay, so here is a rack shelf. I just finished putting all of the joists in. So what I'll do is I've got to start cleaning out that area in the back where it's going to go. And the guy borrowed the forklift truck. One of the guys down the building borrowed the forklift truck, so I've got to get that back to move it in. But here it is, 12 foot, the 12-foot span between end frames, between the end frames, the inside of the end frames, 12-foot span. It's 42 inches wide, and it's 12 foot 6 tall. So I'll get it over there and then start sheeting it, and start getting some of the stuff organized. Now, one shelf is probably going to be devoted entirely to the mill, that Cincy mill components that were torn off of it. But the rest of it is going to be this other stuff that has been annoying me for a year now. So I'll bring you back. So I got the rack in place. Now again, I have those drains in the floor, and the floor is pitched. So what I had to do to get it fairly level was put a 2x6 underneath the one end of it. And it's going to be pretty sturdy. If I have any doubts about it, what I'll do is just anchor it somehow, or maybe support, put a little support underneath the bottom shelf, between the bottom shelf, the bottom of the bottom shelf, and the floor. So, but it is fairly sturdy. It is sturdy. It's pretty wide, so it's got a good footprint on it. I understand that it's high, but now this side where it's on the 2x6 isn't as sturdy. But it'll, once that gets weighted and that 2x6 conforms to the floor, the weight of it conforms that 2x6 to the floor, it'll get sturdy. If it doesn't get sturdy, what I'll do is I'll just maybe anchor it to the wall or something. Not anchor it, but cross brace it to the wall. But I'm not really concerned about it. Again, you know, the weight, the major portion of the weight is going to be on the bottom shelves. So it's going to be, the center of gravity is going to be low on the thing, and it's just going to be light boxes, totes, stuff like that, that are going to go in the upper portion of it. So I'm really not concerned about it at all. So the 8 sheets of plywood that I bought for this project, I have on there. Now, I'm not sure what I was thinking when I bought 8 sheets of plywood. Those are 12-foot shelves, and of course, plywood's 4x8. And there's 7 shelves, and I only bought 8 sheets of plywood. So I got all the 8-footers on up there, and then the last sheet I split in half and got those 2 first shelves on. But I got to go out and buy 3 more sheets of plywood. Again, I really don't know what I was thinking, but anyways, there it is. And I've just kind of started loading some stuff up to get out of the way. Not saying that it's going to stay there. My grandson wants one of the shelves for, he does like remodeling work and stuff like that, so he's got a bunch of stuff around. So I think I'm going to let him have the second shelf. I'm going to keep the first shelf down there for kind of towing stuff. The fifth wheel adapter for the gooseneck. I'm not sure if I can get that weight bracket that goes in the back of my truck in the wintertime into there. It's like a ½ an inch higher than that. I might be able to set it in at an angle. The thing's pretty damn heavy though, so but if I can't get it in there, I won't. But I've also got that forklift adapter for to get the trailer into the shop, where I put the hook it onto the forklift and can tow it into the shop. Kind of that stuff is going to go on the bottom, maybe along with some stuff that I kind of sell on eBay, like that red case over there in the corner is something that is going to be sold on eBay that it hasn't been listed yet, but I might keep that stuff for part of the shelf down there for eBay stuff. But anyways, I've got to go out. 3 more sheets of plywood. I'll bring you back. This is just going to be a brief one. I kind of actually had thought I had filmed this, but apparently not. When I left off, I had told you that I had only picked up 8 sheets of plywood. There were 7 shelves, and I kind of screwed up. I didn't really know what I was thinking. So I went out yesterday and picked up the rest of the plywood. Got it up there. Now, some of them, I think the top 3 shelves, the 4-foot section on the end is only sitting there right now. I've got to screw it down, or it might be screwed on the outside edges, but the rest of it has got to be screwed down. Now, I've started putting some of my grandson's stuff up in there, and I put it up in the 3rd shelf. I'm going to kind of save that 2nd shelf up for that mill equipment today, and start moving some of this stuff up there. So I might kind of do like a time-lapse, video of it as I progressively get stuff moved out of here and put up into the shelves. But I will bring you back and show it to you. I'm not really sure that I'm going to get another tractor video in this week. That camper that I pulled back from Grand Junction, Colorado, the guy sold it, and I've got to take it out to Kansas the first part of the week. So I'll probably pick it back up from him on the weekend and take it out to Kansas probably on Monday. I still haven't talked to the guy yet that I'm taking it to, but it'll probably be Monday. But I'll bring you back. So this is kind of a different angle. This is over a little farther near where the drill press is sitting, and just a shot of getting this stuff picked up. Okay, so I just as an ending to this little thing, I want to just give you a clip of the areas that is cleaned up now. And this is a shelf rack system with that stuff on it. Now, the first shelf is just miscellaneous stuff. That second shelf, with the exception of the compressor, which I've got to put down on the first shelf, is all of the stuff for that mill that I got that was taken apart. Third shelf is going to be my grandson's. All of that miscellaneous stuff that was kind of sitting underneath the bench and around the bench with the mill stuff is up there. So I've got that. Now, I've alluded to that I would be going to Kansas, and I am going to Kansas. I've actually got to meet the guy to drop that RV off at 4 o'clock Monday afternoon. So I am going to Kansas, and this morning I got out to started my truck, and I heard a funny noise. Well, I've got the dog. I've got my grandson's dog here, but when I got in the truck, I heard a funny noise. I kind of thought it was a dog doing something, but when I started to drive, I realized that I didn't have any power steering, and just knew right away that it was the serpentine belt, and that's what's left of the serpentine belt. Now, what I did do is I got a replacement belt, put it on, and when I was talking to somebody, he noticed that the water pump pulley, the serpentine belt, was kind of off of the water pump pulley a little bit. Now, that's one of those that like a the water pump pulley is an idler pulley. It doesn't use the notch side of the belt. It uses the back side of the belt, and just the friction of the back side of the belt against the pulley turns it. But I kind of looked into it, and sure enough, that's probably why the serpentine belt went. The bearing is bad in that water pump, and it cocked. What it does is it cocks the pulley down so that the belt rides off of the pulley, and part of the belt will be off of the pulley actually. So I need to get that water pump replaced before I went to Kansas. So there's a guy down the street that works on trucks, and I just had him do it. I didn't want to get involved in trying to, with everything else that's going on, getting the trailer ready and for the trip to Kansas. And tomorrow I've got to load that RV onto the trailer. But anyways, with everything going on, I just thought it'd be easier, and it's kind of a pain in the ass to replace the water pump on those Cummins engines. You gotta pull the fan shroud, pull the cowling, and to get at everything, and I just didn't want to really deal with it, so I'm gonna let him do it, and that way I have kind of peace of mind that on the trip. You know kind of how sometimes when you work on something and something doesn't fit just exactly right, or something like that, and it's always in the back of your mind. Every time that you're driving the truck or the vehicle, it's always in the back of your mind, well, I wonder if that thing's going to let go, or when you're somebody else does it, you don't know those things, so you don't worry about them. But anyways, tractor video next week, probably going to be toward the latter part of the week, but I'll bring you back.